are known for their ability to laugh in the face of hardship. Memes and jokes began appearing on social media from the first confirmed case to the president's mask mishap to Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma's Zol explanation. Now, someone who always manages to capture the nation's mood in funny but poignant cartoons is Jonathan Zapiro Shapiro. He joins us now from Cape Town. Very good to see you, Jonathan. It's been a while. I should imagine you've been kept pretty busy in this time, both laughing and crying, probably in equal measure.
Absolutely. And, you know, you mentioned the memes. You mentioned the memes, the jokes, all of that stuff. I try not to compete with that because in a sense, you can't. They're so fast. And the other thing is that I feel, as a cartoonist who's trying to really get to grips with the meat of this incredibly huge and diverse story, I'm often looking at the contradictions. I'm looking at the disparities between what it's like, say, being in lockdown where I am, compared to very difficult situations that people find themselves in townships and all sorts of things. So I end up doing some very, very intense cartoons. I don't do those quick win, those easy win things. I look at fake news. I look at the contradictions. I look at the disparities, and that's the sort of thing I'm doing.
So, I mean, obviously that's pretty hardcore, quite a psychologically exhausting thing happening to you. But how do you depict the different experiences? What is it that you're looking for, the little nuggets there?
Yeah, well, you just passed the one that I did with the so-called experts. I mean, everybody becomes an expert. And people look at things from their own point of view. And of course, I mean, I also look at things from my own point of view. But I do try and pick up, now you're showing this one that's hugely intense, that follows all the different, I try and show the different ways that people respond. And in that way, I try not to pigeonhole myself as a kind of a complaining whitey I'm looking at how difficult it's going to be for people to go back to school, even though it's important for people to go back to school. The kids are not necessarily going to get it, but they might become vectors. They might carry the virus back home. Yeah, those are the kinds of things I do, and I try and make it look funny and easy when the cartoon comes out. But I go through a hell of a lot of angst in trying to find a position that kind of works for me.
But that's what's so amazing about cartoons, isn't it? I mean, you really get the nugget of the story, and in something that appears simple, you're telling such a big, passionate piece, you know. I mean, I love the cartoon there of, you know, everyone's, you know, fighting for the type of clothes that they can wear, and Donald Trump. It's important when you've got those sort of crazy things coming out that you laugh at it in order to lighten the situation.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something like Trump. It's unequivocal for me. I mean, I try and just go for the jugular. The guy's a complete. I mean, he's such a danger to the whole planet, and being, you know, in charge of the most powerful country in the world. But and say Ibrahim Patel. I mean, that stuff became so absurd. The clothing regulations could go for that unequivocally as well. But there are many of those other issues that have cropped up in some of the cartoons that you've shown, which are clearly there's on the one hand, on the other hand, on the one hand, on the other. I do a lot of that equivocation, and some of the ways that people are responding to the cartoons I'm doing are where they're appreciating the fact that there are those many sides to the story that has started out as, I mean, in the first cartoons I did of COVID-19, it was a metaphor for our incredibly intense politics. And then it moved to center stage, and then it became the biggest story of the year, and then the biggest story of the decade, and then the biggest story of the century so far. And by the end of this century, it may be still the biggest story of the entire century. I mean, that's how this thing is.
How important is feedback from people who read your cartoons?
Well, it is and it isn't. What I'm not trying to, it's not a popularity contest. I'm not trying to see like which gets biggest number of hits on social media and that. I mean, social media is a very fickle and strange animal. I'm read the Daily Maverick that I work for is one of the most fantastic platforms around. It's one of the few expanding ones at the moment, and it's the brilliant journalism going on there. So I try and deal with issues that we're dealing with there, and there's obviously a following. There's obviously other people as well who see the things when they get passed around. But I really try and focus on what I think is interesting, and I look at some feedback, but I actually don't look at a lot. I'm more interested in just making sure that the stuff is still working, and that many people are enjoying it, but I certainly don't have to please everybody.
And what elicits this creativity? I should imagine there are many platforms. I think I gave you an easy one when I did that infamous interview with the minister who kept on talking about hole in the head, and that was a bit of a no-brainer. You drew the minister with a hole in her head. But are there some just much easier than others?
For sure. I would have to say that for me, the cartoons don't often just land like that, I go through so many versions of them. I'm still trying to figure out which issue to do, let alone how to do each issue. And then I spend a long time getting the idea together, and then I spend a long time doing them. I do spend too much time. But it's fantastic when you get something that just lands. That's unusual for me.
Well, your cartoons really are quite extraordinary. I love them, and they're very important, Jonathan. Thank you.